Now, Kenya's agricultural industry is exploring ways to grow beyond traditional markets in Europe. Joining us now from Nairobi, Kenya, on what initiatives Kenya needs to take to cultivate more markets is Dr. Stephen Mbithi, the CEO of the Fresh Produce Exporters Association of Kenya. Dr. Mbithi, thank you very much for coming through. We know that agriculture constitutes something like 25% of Kenyan GDP, but it's been vulnerable to exogenous shocks such as the volcanic ash situation a month ago, and now the growing debt crisis in Europe, which is the major export destination for agriculture. How are you coping with this?
Yeah, it's quite tough. I must admit that the situation in Europe is seriously affecting us. You will know that we do something like 80% of our total exports end up in the EU market. Actually, in the year 2008, 2009, and 2009 and 10, it was about 82% of our total exports. So the fact that the euro is losing ground to the dollar is a big problem because we're getting paid the same euros like other years, only that we are getting much less Kenya shillings for them.
Yeah.
Now, we normally pay for our air freight, which is the biggest component on cost, we're using US dollars. And therefore, that means that we are paying much more euros on air freight than we were paying before. So yes, that's quite tough. But there are some positive things about the situation. One is that, okay, we are happy at least the volcanic ash situation is over now. We lost something like about 12 million US dollars through that process of the volcanic ash. But at least that's behind us now. The weather this year is much more good compared to last year. We had a very severe drought last year. We had to close a lot of farms because there was simply no water and there was no rain in Kenya in 2009. But 2010, we have plenty of rain. So a lot of production is back, and I think we're happy about that. So yes, some negatives and some positives.
All right, now what are you doing about accessing new markets? Because Europe is proving to be a bit of a tricky trading partner for Kenyan agro exporters, and there is a sense that it's time to start looking at West Africa, North Africa, consolidating relations through the East African Community Common Market, maybe going as far as Asia. Are you looking at that?
Absolutely, yes. We are now doing about 5% of our exports now to the US market, another 5 to 7% depending on year to the Middle East market, especially through Dubai. And we're also doing some volumes now to Japan, and of course some increasing amounts, less than 1%, but some increasing amounts to Eastern Europe and Russia in particular. I'm talking mainly of flowers, but also vegetables to all these destinations. Now, with regard to the African market and also the East African market, yes, we are seeing some increase in volumes of especially vegetables and fruits going to what we consider to be the high-end markets in these places. Like, for example, the tourist hotels where the customers, of course, want to eat the same products like they normally eat in their back country. So basically, we are seeing some increase in trade in the regional countries. The major challenge here, of course, is the currency issues. I mean, like how you get paid from, let's say, Nigeria or DR Congo, and also the logistics of getting the produce to those particular places, given that the dynamics of our trade is that once a product lands in a country, it's got to get to the customer quite fast because it's a very perishable product. And many of these countries lack that kind of infrastructure to get the product around to the consumers. But yes, we are seeing an increasing trend. We are welcoming it a lot, and we're very happy about that. Of course, at the moment, in terms of exports to the region, we are targeting what we consider to be the upmarket towns and also the tourist segments of that, yes.
All right, Dr. Mbithi, let's talk about the design of agriculture in terms of boosting capacity. You've got about 4.5 million Kenyans involved in the sector in one way or another on the various elements of the supply chain. But what you have is, for instance, in tea, which is a major commodity exported, you rely on large estates, and then in other agro sectors, you rely on small holders. So there's a bit of a disparity in terms of production and capacity, and that affects your competitiveness. What are you doing to improve on efficiencies, and what needs to be done to ensure that all those 4 million people involved in the agro industry are involved in a way that's really quite meaningful?
Yes, it's quite a challenge, I agree. It's true that, like in horticulture, for example, 70% of the fruits and vegetables exported from Kenya are coming from smallholders. I mean, people with land acreage below 1 hectare, or about 2.5 acres. And it's also true that we have a huge dependency on smallholders in production. Now, we do not see going forward that there will be a phasing out of smallholders in favor of large orders. We think that would be not socioeconomically very good. And we have noted also as an industry, serving a very demanding market out there in the West, that actually the smallholders are able to meet standards and do the right things. The only thing that needs to be done here is more consolidation, more upscaling, organizing more efficient structures of getting produce from smallholders in a much more cost-effective way than is the case now. Basically reducing the cost of doing business for smallholders.
Right.
Now, the reason is that we have an inevitable shift here. Kenya is a land of about 40 million people. Land holdings are down now to about 2.53 acres per household. The high potential areas where there is water, where horticulture can be practiced, or even tea, the land there is really shrinking. Now, if you were to create large-scale farms there, you would cause huge displacements, something we certainly don't want to see. So the way out here really is to integrate these smallholders on the value chain, something that horticulture in Kenya has done well. I mean, if you look at the figures, we certainly are able to produce for the most demanding markets using these smallholders. So yes, a lot of work, especially on quality standards, which are increasing every day. So a lot of infrastructural support to ensure that hygiene facilities and other standards on production are in place, and efficiency structures, and of course working on the cost of doing business, especially from taxation and many other aspects.